Hello everyone, welcome back to Dawi After Dark. This is your host Richie, and I'm going to take a slight break from talking about dwarves today. Nah, I'm only joking. But I'm not going to be doing a show about any of the dwarf units or tactics, but today I am hot off a tournament. So I just come back from the square-based GT, the foray into Cathay, which I did manage to come sixth. It was a really fun event, but I discovered that my kryptonite of my list is Chaos Dwarfs. Now, I wasn't running a conventional dwarf list at all. I like to try new things. I've been using the Yeet for a while, and I've been using the conventional combined arms that dwarves do really well. And I think I've kind of cracked my playstyle with that kind of list. So I thought I would try a new type of list. Now, it is a completely skewed list into shooting, which uses a Death Star of Iron Drakes, which I'm going to start calling the Drake Star. It's a really fun list. It is quite techy to use, so it's probably not for people who are just picking up Old World, but I will run you through it and then see if you think it's fun. I had 5 really good games. The square-based tournaments that Rob runs are always really good. If you haven't seen his channel, go check it out, but I'm sure you have. If you can get to any events in the UK, really try and go to them. They're really fun. You can find tickets for them on Eventbrite. Just quickly before we get going, I would just like to announce that I have proudly become an affiliate member with Firestorm Games. If you really wanted to help the channel out, if you buy anything from Firestorm, just click on the link down below. That would really help me out. Thank you guys. I went up to Nottingham the day before the tournament with one of my friends from my local gaming club, which is Knights of the Shire, and we just happened to slip into Warhammer World and happened to slip into Bugman's for a couple of beers. And that was actually the first thing we did when we got to Warhammer World. But we needed some ale before the game started, 100%. I will just quickly run you through my list. First off, we have my Thane. He's the BSB. He's on Shield Bearers, the Master Rune of Gromril, the Rune of Preservation, the Banner Rune of Grugny, Strollers, and the Rune of Battle. So he's giving 2 combat res, the 5-up ward, and Vanguard. He also has a 2-up save, and he's immune to Killing Blow and Multi-Wound. Next up is the Fireball Thane. This is the same loadout that I talked about on my last video with the Rune of Accuracy, Rapid Fire, Bursting Flame with a handgun. He also has a shield, so he has a 3-up save with a re-rolling 1s, so if anything's hitting into him with no AP, he's really survivable. Then we have the Anvil of Doom, the Rune of Preservation. That's basically there to try and move the Iron Drakes up further with the double move, or just be a gun battery and give the +1 saves or the reroll saves. Then we have another little nice fun tech piece, which is Burlock. Burlock isn't there to be a fighter. He's not there to be a gunner. He's there to be your general because he's leadership 10. Also, he has the Optics special rule. So what that does is the unit that he's in doesn't ever suffer -1 to hit from long range, which is brilliant on the Iron Drake, so they'll always be hitting at 18 inches on 3s. And the Trollhammer Torpedo will always be hitting on 3s if it's moved, or 2s if it hasn't moved at 24 inches. Also, if the Thunderers are within 12 inches of him, he can give them reroll 1s or an artillery roll or misfire, which is really handy. Next, we have in my core 20 Rangers. These guys are fully upgraded with great weapons, shields, old Deadeye. I didn't take a banner or a musician into this unit because they're there just to be redirectors or just hail loads of fire across the board and scout into really annoying places. Then I had 17 Thunderers with great weapons, shields, and a veteran. The main point of these was just thin out my Cortax. I would normally take Warriors, but I really wanted to take a unit that's still going to have some range capabilities. So sticking 17 of these on a hill in 2 lines means the entire unit can shoot out and pump out a whole lot of lead at 24 inches. Next up in my special, I've got 2 Grudge Throwers. I love these, you love these. They're our best piece of artillery in my opinion. I've got a Rune of Forging on each one and a Rune of Reloading on one as well. So we can reroll his misfires. If one does manage to misfire, then anything but a 1 and he's all good to fire next turn. In the rare slot, we've got the Drake Star. This is the 18 Iron Drakes that's got the full command. The Iron Warden has the Trollhammer Torpedo and the Cinderblast Bombs. And we have a Standard Bearer in there with the Rune of Battle. The reason I've taken the Trollhammer Torpedo and the Cinderblast Bombs, I don't need to say why I'm taking the Trollhammer. It's amazing. Strength 8, AP 3, D3 damage, but it doesn't have quick shot. So if the enemy's super close to you, you're going to want the Cinderblast Bombs to throw in a standard shoot action, which is D6, Strength 5 hits. That thing is absolutely crazy on the standard shoot. And also, if you're moving forward and just get quite close to the enemy, it's also really good then as well. What I will say is it doesn't have Dwarf crafted, so unfortunately on standard shoot, you will be hitting on 3s rather than 2s because you do suffer a -1 for standard shoot with that. My reasoning behind the Rune of Battle on that unit is that the BSB is going to go in with the Iron Drakes, then they're going to create a static combat res of 5 or 6, depending if they're going to be in a line or be in 2 ranks. Considering that's on a unit that's going to do quite a lot of wounds on standard shoot, which is then going to get added into combat res, is pretty crazy. Next up, we have a final little tech piece, which I put in the list to be able to help move the Iron Drakes up the board. But I'm probably going to drop from the list because it just kind of become a liability, got in the way, and ended up just kind of giving its points away in most games, which is the pony cart. If you're running a combat list, the pony cart is 100% necessary. I think for a shooting list, I just didn't need it. It was kind of a waste of points for me, unfortunately. But the logic was to have the Stroller's Rune in my Iron Drakes, so they vanguard up, then they can move 4, then with the Anvil, move another 4. So turn 1, if I get first turn, I can shoot pretty much anything that's on the line or near the line in the enemy's deployment. So we could get some really nice shots off. Unfortunately, I don't need to play as aggressive because the enemy's going to have to come to me because of the grudge throwers. So I didn't need to play that aggressively. My first game of the weekend was against Ed Milton. I haven't had the honour of playing against him before. We've been with the same tournaments now for about 5 or 6 events. I've never been able to play him. So it was really fun to finally get the chance to crack into Ed's lists. Now, he normally runs Empire, but he was trying a nomadic war list this time. It was a really, really fun game, but unfortunately, because he was fully combat and my army was fully basically shooting, it didn't end too well for him. He ran the nomadic war list, which is a level 4 wizard on Giant Wolf with the Idol of Gork, the Ruby Ring of Ruin, another level 4 on Giant Wolf with a Dispel Scroll and Idol of Mork, an Orc Big Boss, which has Cavalry Spear on a War Boar, Battle Standard Bearer, the Banner of Butchery, Trollhide Trousers with a Charm Shield, and then an Orc War Boss on Wyvern with a Great Weapon, Heavy Armour, Shield, Trollhide Trousers, Grizzly Trophy Rack, and Talisman of Protection. I really like the Grizzly Trophy Rack because that's a minus to leadership around him. Then he has Goblin Wolf Rider Mob with Reserve Move, 5 Wolf Riders with Short Bows, and then 19 Boar Boys with Cavalry Spears with the big red radiary flag. These have also been upgraded to be big uns. Then in special, he has 2 units of Orc Boar Boys. One with the War Banner, then one with the War Paint and Frenzy. In this game, I basically tried to set the precedent for how I was going to deploy in most of my games. So it was going to be the artillery at the back, the big line of Iron Drakes at the front, the Thunderers up on the hill so they can shoot in 2 lines, Anvil holding a flank, and then the Rangers anywhere on the far hand side where they could get the most shots or try and funnel units to make some really bad charges, like charging cavalry into a woods, which is dangerous terrain. So I try and create a funnel area that the enemy's got to go into. And unfortunately, as he was a full combat army, Ed had to try and charge straight forwards, which then means that he's going to come into a blistering amount of firepower from my entire army. It was a really, really fun game, but unfortunately there were a few moments where my dice spiked, his dice didn't, and unfortunately, by the end of turn 3, it completely swung my way. He only managed to get a couple of units in. The Wyvern managed to get into my Iron Drakes, which I challenged out with my BSB. Didn't manage to do any wounds to me, so I ended up winning combat, double outnumbering him, and he flooded off the board. It was a really, really fun game, but unfortunately it did go a little bit south for the Nomadic War, but that's only because they are a full combat army and they just ran straight into a gun line. Next up, I played against Matt Howley, who eventually went on to win the entire event. This list probably ended up being one of the hardest ones I played against all weekend. It was a really tough matchup. Matt is an amazing player. I've played against him a few times now, and this list was absolutely crazy going into Dwarves. He has a Bull Taurus, which is toughness 8, with a 3-up wall save against flaming, and unfortunately my Iron Drake, they could not do a thing. So his list. He took a Sorcerer Prophet with Darkforged weapons, heavy armour, Blood of a Shoot, level 4 wizard, Bale Taurus, armour of silvered steel, 2 mantles of stone with elementalism. 2 mantle of stones there to take it up to toughness 8. The Black Orc War Boss, we know what this guy does. Trollhide trousers, the choppiest chopper and a charmed shield. Really tanky, really killy, amazing model. Then he's got a Demon Smith Sorcerer, 18 Infernal Guard with great weapons, heavy armour, Death Mask, Naphtha Bombs and Hellshard, Standard Bearer, Musicians, 5 Infernal Guard with Fire Glaives. Then he's got 2 units of 10 Hobgoblin Cutthroats, 5 Black Orc Mob, and then an Iron Demon with Steam Cannonade, and 2 Death Shrieker Rockets. In this game we played a scenario for Battle for the Pass, so we played at lengthways on the board and coming into each other. Because I outdropped him, I had the advantage going into turn 1, so I placed all of my stuff as close as I could to him to be able to try and get as many shots off turn 1 to try and down the big things, then I could just polish up whatever was left. Unfortunately, being that close was my downfall. I didn't manage to do any wounds for the first 1 or 2 turns. He just managed to get into me with the big monsters. I could not deal with the 3-up ward against fire damage, and unfortunately managed to kill my BSB in a challenge. And then it just didn't go well after that. My army just kind of disintegrated around me. I'm going to be making some changes with the list, but unfortunately Grugny was not with me in that game. It was a really, really fun one. His army was great, and it was just nice to see the Chaos Dwarfs doing really well. But it is slightly annoying that my kryptonite does seem to be Chaos Dwarves. But it's evil Dwarves, so I get it. Next up, I played against Pip with his amazing Lizardman army. It's all really, really old models. They're all from 4th and 5th edition, and it's so nice to see that on the board. He's running the Skinkageddon list with the Monster Mash as well. He has the Saurus Old Blood with Ogre Blade and Talisman of Protection, the Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur with the Glyph Necklace and a Battle Standard Bearer. He has the Skink Priest, which is a level 2 wizard with a Lore Familiar and Battle Magic. Then a Saurus Scar Veteran on Flying Carpet to whiz around by himself. Next up, as a core tax, he has 12 Saurus Warriors with Shield Wall, Spawn Leader and Musician. And then he has 6 unit of Skink Skirmishers with Javelins and Calloused Hides. 2 of them are going to be upgraded to be Scout, so he can just be really annoying with them. And then, in rare, he has 2 Ancient Stegodons. This was a really, really fun game against Pip. This was only an open battle game again, the same as I played against Ed, so there wasn't any specific scenario missions or scenario rules. So basically, we then had to roll off for Scouts straight away. He won the roll off for Scouts, and he put his Skinks exactly where I wanted to put my Rangers. So unfortunately, I had to try and gum up a zone on his side so I could create a kind of zone where he wouldn't want to charge me on my left-hand flank, and then try and hold my right-hand flank with my Anvil and my Fireball Fane. Luckily, I did manage to end up beating Pip. It was an amazing game. Luckily, the Dwarves managed to hold themselves against the onslaught of the poison and the massive dinosaurs. The Iron Drakes managed to do amazing work, killing both Stegodons and both Carnosaurs. There was a really pivotal moment when the Carnosaur charged into my Iron Drakes. I managed to pop a challenge with my VSB. He didn't do any wounds to me because I was buffed from the Anvil. And then he lost combat, double outnumbered, and fled with only 1 wound remaining. I managed to snipe him off with the Fireball Flame afterwards. It was a brilliant game. It was so tight. I thought I was losing it at the beginning because I couldn't get in a good deployment zone. And then once the dinosaurs started hitting me, I thought it was going bad. But then it managed to flip-flop round and I managed to get a decent win in against Pip. It was a really, really, really fun game. That's the second time that I've played against him. And they're always a tight, tense game. Really, really good player. And it's really nice to see Lizard Men on the boards as well. So that was it for the first day. I managed to get 2 wins and 1 loss against the dreaded Dawi Czar. But I felt confident going into day 2 that it was still within grasp to be able to do pretty well at the event. Then I pulled into my friend Tom. Tom was also playing Chaos Dwarfs. So yeah, I kind of knew how this was going to go, unfortunately, because my list skews pretty heavy into flaming attacks, and his was an even more aggressive version of Matt Howley's list. Now, Tom is my friend. He's on our local gaming group as well. He is also the man that runs UK Resin Print, who sponsors the channel. There is a discount link below, and the discount code is Dawi After Dark, all in capitals. The print quality is absolutely amazing, and he also has 3 different Dwarf ranges on there, so go check them out, guys. For the first game of day 2, this was Command and Conquer. So there was 1 impassable terrain in the middle of the board that if you held that at the end of turn 6, you gain an extra 200 victory points. So I needed to try and blast his big things off the board as quickly as possible and try and take the central objective. Unfortunately, as you can tell from his army, the big Gribblies got into me. I didn't do anything the first 2 turns. I completely whiffed. I didn't roll hardly any to hits. I rolled hardly any to wounds. And he just managed to slam into me. But the game did start to turn around. I managed to kill his Bale Taurus and then ended up taking his Wyvern down to 1 wound, killing the Khan with the Rangers and then also taking out the Wolf Riders. Did manage to kill a lot of my stuff. It was looking like a draw, but then he managed to claim the central objective at the end of turn 6, gaining the 200 points that he needed for the win. If I'd have just managed to do the last wound to his Wyvern, it would have ended up tipping it in my favour and I would have ended up winning the game. Always amazing to play against Tom. He's a great player and his army is absolutely stunning. It's a collection from Lost Kingdom and converted models that he's printed and painted himself. They're also matched in to have the same bases as mine, and he's also got some tortured and dying dwarves on his bases. That is definitely a grudging. Tom's list is a Sorcerer Prophet, level 4, General Bale Taurus, Mantle of Stone, Talisman of Protection, Armour of Meteoric Iron, Obsidian Vambraces, Demonology. Black Oak Warboss, Great Weapon, Full Plate Armour, Wyvern, Enchanted Shield, Trollhide Trouders with Effigy of Mork. Hobgoblin Khan with Throwing Weapons, Great Weapon, Light Armour, Giant Wolf, Charm Shield and Ruby Ring of Ruin. Hobgoblin Khan with Throwing Weapons, Great Weapon, Short Bow instead of Throwing Weapons and on foot. He then has a massive 40-man brick of Hobgoblin Cutthroats. These have Short Bows, Boss, Standard Bearer and Musician, 10 Infernal Guard as attacks, 12 Black Orc Mob as attacks for the Wyvern with 8 shields and 5 Great Weapons at a boss. He then has the Iron Demon and 2 Hobgoblin Bolt Throwers. He then has 5 Wolf Riders with shields, short bows, Fame Flight and Reserve Move. It's a really fun, really strong list. It's a real damage tech army. If you can deal the damage against toughness 7, then you can deal with it. If you can't, then unfortunately he's probably going to steamroll straight through you. It's a really fun army to play against and he is a super great guy as well. And he ended up coming 3rd at the event as well, I was really happy that I only ended up losing against the people who come first and third in the event, so I'm happy with that. My next game was against Scott, who used to be part of Triple Crown Wargaming. Scott is a great guy and a really good Bretonnian player. Scott's list is the Duke with the Virtue of Knightly Temper, Ogre Blade, Obsidian Lodestone, Shield, and a Royal Pegasus. The Green Knight, a Prophetess with a Ruby Ring of Ruin, Prayer Icon of Quenelles, Level 4 Wizard, Battle Magic on a Warhorse. Then a Damsel with Battle Magic and Bretonnian Warhorse. 10 Peasant Bowmen in Skirmish, 8 Mounted Knights of the Realm with a First Knight, Antlers of the Great Hunt with a Standard Bearer, War Banner, and a Musician, 8 Mounted Knights of the Realm, 3 Pegasus Knights with the Banner of Honourable Warfare, 7 Grail Knights with the Grail Guardian, Falcon Horn, and a Standard Bearer. Unfortunately, that Falcon Horn didn't really do anything in our game at all. I've never had the pleasure of playing against Scott before, but it was a really good game. He's a really great guy. We had a blast. Scott unfortunately had the same problem that Ed did. When he charged his line towards me, I managed to pick a unit off every turn. Then in stand and shoot, managed to kill his Duke, and he just couldn't recover at that point. The crossbows managed to kill the Knights of the Realm, turn 1. The Iron Drakes managed to kill the Pegasus Knights as well. Then once the Duke fell, unfortunately the army started to crumble around them. The Grail Knights then died in turn 3, but the Green Knight did make a valiant attempt at killing my Thunderers. It was a really good game, but unfortunately, when you've got no defense against shooting and also you've got no range trait yourself, unfortunately, if the shooting army doesn't whiff, then the combat army is in real trouble. It was a really fun game. Unfortunately, it did go quite one-sided after turn 2, but we had a great time anyway. So at the event, I ended up going 3-2 and ended up getting 6th place overall, which I think for an experimental list that I haven't tried before, I feel that that's quite good. I think there's a lot of tweaks going forward in this list, like I'm going to get the Banner of Hesitation onto the Iron Drakes, I'm going to take War Banner off, I don't feel that I needed it, but the things that were mainly doing damage to me were Chopper and Impact Hits and Lances, so I think the Banner of Hesitation on them will be really good. And then I need to decide whether I want to put a Gyrocopter in the list as well. I'll keep everybody posted. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.